Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. Will that do? Okay. Can you still hear me? Oh, great. So anyone is welcome to record this meeting, provided they do not disturb the conduct of the meeting. More information is available in the agenda. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being filmed and made available to view in live and archive form via the Council's website. If you're seated in the public gallery, it is possible that the cameras may capture your image. If you would wish to avoid being filmed, it is recommended you make a member of staff aware and they will direct you where to sit. The West Gate garden gates are locked after sunset, and members of the public should leave the Guildhall by the side exit behind the glass door. Should the fire alarm sound, please leave through the nearest safe exit. The assembly point will be outside Cafe Des Amis. Andrea, do we have any apologies?
We do. We have apologies from councillors Andrew Harvey, Michael Dixie, Simon Worley, Liz Harvey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite Councillor Baldock, Sol and Karnak and the Green Group leader to each make a statement that any declarations of interest by members of the respective groups are declared again by any of those members present at this meeting.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Any declarations of interest made by members of the Labour Group are declared again and those present at its meeting. Thank you.
Same for the Lib Dem group.
Same for the Conservative group, Lord Mayor.
Same for the Green Group.
Thank you. Would any other member like to make any other declaration at this point? Councillor Bland.
Yes, Lord Mayor. In respect of one of the items on the agenda, I'd like to make a voluntary announcement that I am a member of the Socialist Environment Resources Association.
Thank you. We have one question from a member of the public for this meeting. Could I invite Dave Wilson to present his question? You have 3 minutes to cover your points.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. This question is being asked on behalf of the Campaign for Democracy in Canterbury District. The 2023 Labour Local Election Manifesto included an explicit pledge to, and I quote, hold a governance review within 2 years to decide on town councils, unquote. Now, a manifesto pledge, of course, cannot bind elected councillors to specific actions, nor can this council bind a new unitary authority to carry out a governance review. There is simply no enforceable mechanism for that, even with a transitional concordat in place. As this district's urban areas will almost certainly be the only unparished parts of the planned new unitary council, and since this creates a real risk, of Canterbury losing its city status, as happened to Rochester in similar circumstances after the creation of Medway Council, why is this council so adamant in its refusal to carry out a governance review? And in the absence of a review, how does the council intend to protect the democratic rights and services for residents if there is no town council? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite the leader to give an initial response.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. If you don't mind, I will deal with this issue, with issues raised in your question under item 8. That's councillor's questions. As a councillor has asked a very similar question, and I will give a full response that I hope will cover all the points raised there, probably in more detail, in fact. I will have to take this opportunity to make an offer to meet with the members of the Campaign for Democracy of the Canterbury District, take their questions about local government reorganisation, in the context of Canterbury City Council, And if dates can be arranged, I'd be very pleased to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. I have no announcement, so I'd like to invite the leader and cabinet members to make any announcements they may have. Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Following the Regulator of Social Housing inspection in July, we received our grading of C3 on October the 15th. The regulator said there are some serious failings in delivering the consumer standards it sets, and significant improvement is needed. But the regulator also recognises the council is being open and transparent, already has an action plan in place to fix the failures, and is engaging constructively, having reported ourselves in January after spotting a number of issues for ourselves, including the lack of stock condition data and poor performance in dealing with tenant complaints. Budget proposals that have recently been published contain significant amounts of investment to deliver against the action plan, but just as importantly, we need scrutiny and challenge as a key element in our drive to make the improvements that all of us, officers, councillors and tenants, want to see. Accordingly, at Cabinet last month, we agreed to set up a Housing Cabinet Committee with politically balanced representation and tenant reps also on board. I'm therefore pleased to be able to announce that the first meeting will take place very soon and will report back to Cabinet. This will be in addition to existing governance arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelton. Joint Chief Executive, do you have any announcements?
No, thank you, Lord Mayor.
There are no recommendations to full council from Cabinet for this meeting. Item C6 on the agenda, recommendation from Whitstable Harbour Board, 10th of October 2025, concerning the review of harbour charges 2026 to 2027, minute 316. Next, we have a recommendation from the I would like to invite Councillor Chris Cornell to propose the recommendation under item 6A in the agenda and Councillor Carnac to second it.
And I formally propose a review of the review of harbour charges as listed in the link for the meeting on the 10th of October.
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. This recommendation can be debated. Would any member like to speak? Yeah. Andrea, could you take a recorded vote?
And that is carried unanimously, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. We now move on to appointment item 7, which is appointment to vacancy on the East Kent Joint Independent Remuneration Panel. I would like to invite Peter Davies, the Joint Chief Executive, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As the report sets out, a full recruitment process has been undertaken to fill the vacancy, which was asked to be published by council, and that's noted in there as, I think it's minutes 760A, which was adding an additional independent member to the independent remuneration panel. Following the process where Matthew and Nikki undertook the recruitment, a nomination has been put forward for recommended as appointment tonight, which is the appointment of David Irvine as the council's representative.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from councillors? No? I would like to invite Councillor Baldock to propose and Councillor Sol to second that David Irvine be appointed to the vacant position on the East Kent Joint Independent Remuneration Panel for the remainder of the current term, expiring on the 30th of November 2027, with the appointments to be extended until 31st of March 2028, should the panel's term itself be extended to that date.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm happy to propose that using the wording just read by yourself. Thank you very much.
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Would any member like to speak? Can we take a recorded vote, Andrea? Thank you.
And that's carried unanimously, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. We have 3 questions for the meeting. There is an overall time limit of 30 minutes for all councillor questions. Each questionnaire will have 1 minute to put their question and 3 minutes is allowed for the response. Each questionnaire will also be allowed to ask 1 supplementary question, which the respondent to the original question may answer. No other contribution is allowed. Can I invite Councillor Turnbull to put their first question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The draft local plan forecasts a need for around 695 affordable homes per year through to 2043. Currently, the draft plan meets less than half this need, meaning the council is not planning to meet the needs of those most in need in our district. This council owns several brownfield sites in the draft local plan, including Military Road, Beacon Road in Herne Bay and various car parks. This government wants councils to start building social housing themselves and launch the Social and Affordable Homes programme to kickstart house building, stating we want to make it easier for councils to use their resources and land to build more homes. We welcomed the acquisition of additional social housing last year, but it is a lot more expensive to buy from developers than it is to build ourselves. Developers have demonstrated that social housing is not a priority for them. It looks as though conditions are ideal for this council to start building to meet local social housing need itself. How is this council taking advantage of this current winning situation of having sites ready for development and a government keen to facilitate social home building?
Thank you, Councillor Turnbull. Can I invite Councillor Hazelton as Cabinet Member for Housing to make a response?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can you hear me okay? Good. It was a bit sibilant earlier, so hopefully I'll sit back a bit. And thank you for your question, Claire. When we bought 67 brand new council homes last year, it was a huge demonstration of our intent. And we're proud that 67 families from our waiting list have been able to take advantage of them. And I appreciate you recognising what a positive step forward that was. The draft local plan demonstrates we want to do all we can to build on brownfield sites before we turn our attention to development elsewhere. And we've also recently consulted on how the new NPPF requirements for social rent housing can be integrated into the new local plan in order to boost the supply of social rent housing in the district as a lower cost alternative to affordable rent housing. And in our draft budget published on Friday, shows our commitment to social housing is at the heart of everything this council is about. In September, we secured planning permission to build 11 flats for social rent ourselves on the site of some old garages in Warwick Road in Canterbury. And in July, we secured planning permission to build another 11 council homes on the site. And I stand to be corrected, but I understand the Green representatives either abstained or voted against those proposals. These small schemes have taught us that developing our own homes takes a huge amount of work by staff. That stops them doing other valuable work, can increase costs rather than reduce them, and adds to the risk of failure or delay. We are determined to deliver on social housing and want to keep our options open so we can jump on opportunities when they appear. We think it would be madness to put all of our eggs in one basket. Our draft budget earmarks an initial £5 million to build or buy new council homes. We genuinely look forward to your support when we come to make a decision on the proposals. And we don't want to forget those already living in existing council homes. Our draft budget puts substantial sums aside to make sure all of our council homes give people somewhere warm and safe to live. including an extra £1 million to ensure council homes are brought up to the government's decent home standard, an extra £500,000 towards adapting the homes of disabled tenants to make their lives easier, plus extra staff to help the council tackle problems with damp and mould as quickly as possible. Last, but certainly not least, adding 11.25 million to the 6.6 million given us by the government from the Warm Home Social Housing Scheme means more and more of those homes will become energy efficient, saving tenants money while saving the planet. All of that has to be a win and needs to be celebrated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelton. Councillor Turnbull, you may ask one supplementary question.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So would you agree it's more cost effective to build social housing than to purchase from developers?
That very much depends, Claire, depending on what's available. The homes that we purchased in back last year averaged far below market rent. And some councils, I get what the central government is wanting to do, and some councils have their own building companies. We don't. We're not in a position to set that up, and certainly with LGR, that's not something that we would be looking to pursue at this time. So I think it absolutely depends. You know, it's some and some. Where there are homes that are being built and developers are stalled on selling more of their market properties, we're actually in a very good position because they can't sell any more of them until they've established their registered provider, and we can jump in as registered provider in those circumstances. So we can get a really good deal. And as I said in my first answer, those small-scale developments, while we're really keen to do them on our own land, they are very worker intensive, and as we know, staffing is short, and we need to focus that on other areas of council housing policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Carnac to put their first question?
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. Will the Leader and Cabinet implement district-wide community governance review? Many of us on the backbenches are concerned that we have not been consulted on how the Council intends to make up the democratic deficit created by local government reorganisation. We are worried about the impact LGR will have on decision-making for our city, towns and those villages that are unparished. Whichever unitary model is finally selected for Kent, every town will have a local representation through a town or parish council, except Canterbury, Whitstable and Herne Bay, which puts us at an immediate democratic disadvantage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carnac. Can I invite Councillor Baldock as leader to make their response?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My thanks to Councillor Carnac and to Mr Wilson earlier, who answered a question that touched on many of those topics. I'm sure you'll agree. And his question was obviously the campaign for democracy of Canterbury District. I hope my response will address those shared concerns in some measure at least. Firstly, regarding the potential loss of city status for Canterbury and concerns about public representation within our new unitary authority. The matter of city status has been addressed already. It is the intention of you to use the mechanism of charter trustees, and that is what we intend to adopt. Charter trustees are established in secondary legislation in unparished areas, often via the structural changes order and shortly before new unitary councils go live. Charter trustees safely hold historic rights and privileges such as Canterbury city status, the Lord Mayor and Sheriff. While intended as a temporary solution until town or parish council is created, they can be continued for as long as the area wishes. As such, we are keen to influence the new unitary administration via the structural changes order and its associated implementation plan to carry out a community governance review, a CGR, at the start of new unitary authority administration. Importantly, this will give the new organisation an opportunity of reflecting on the democratic change, observing any perceived or proven democratic deficits, and also listening to the views of the communities in unparished areas after a period in office. It is also of note that the government will soon be publishing guidance on the role of neighbourhood committees and other forms of democratic engagement. Initially, that will be within the shadow authority's power. These are targeted at engagement at a very local level. Importantly, this is not a threat to existing town or parish councils, but a possible opportunity for non-parished areas. And across the country, there are still many of those areas. It is worth noting in the context of the recent Whitstable CGR that neighbourhood committees or similar would, in contrast to town or parish councils, not normally add additional tax burden in the way that a precept does. We believe it is right that these proposed alternatives will now be considered alongside the Charter Trustee arrangements at the beginning of a new unitary authority's term. Finally, we've explained to local groups that the options of submitting a petition calling for a community governance review is still available to them, and we have provided the petition numbers required to trigger such a review to each of the urban areas. So our current view as an administration is that it would be premature to proactively trigger a review until the public know what the alternative looks and operates like, so they can make an informed choice on their own lives ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walder. Councillor Carnott, you may ask one supplementary question.
Yeah, thank you. Will the leader agree with me that we are the elected members of this district, and shouldn't it be us rather than those who are not yet elected and are therefore unaccountable, who are making decisions about the future democracy of this district?
No, I won't agree with that, because on the last point of my question, we believe it is right that the people of this district have the chance to look to see what their democratic deficit is. It perceived or real? How are their lives affected by living under a unitary authority? Do they actually want to go forward with and raise a precept, or are they happy with what they've got? We think it is right that they make the decision, knowing what they know at the time of that, rather than we make second guess what we think is going to be best for them.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Charlotte Cornell as... Sorry. Apologies. Can I invite Councillor Watkins to put their first question?
I guess straight to my supplementary, if you wish. We understand from Scrutiny Committee, and indeed now the notice decision this week, that the Council has finally approved a service contract with Konenko. We're yet to see this yet, though, so please can you provide an update and confirm that as councillors we will have a copy shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Can I invite Councillor Charlotte Cornell as Cabinet Member for Council Services, Culture and Heritage to make their response?
Yes, thank you very much. As you rightly say, the contract has now been completed and signed in accordance with the original decision. An officer decision notice has been published on the council website. Completed contracts are not routinely circulated to councillors as they're considered operational documents implementing policy decisions. However, in accordance with access to information provisions, once a contract is signed, any councillor may request to view a copy. Such copies are strictly for your use as a role in your role as councillor and should not be distributed further as they contain sensitive commercial information. Members of the public may also request an access to contract information, but disclosure is subject to exemptions under the Freedom of Information Act or the Environmental Information Regulations, which means that information may be redacted or refused.
Thank you, Councillor Cornell. Councillor Watkins, you may ask one supplementary question. Thank you. so. Don't know. We have three motions. Item 9. We have three motions to consider this evening, and we will make them in order as they appear in the agenda. So the first motion can be debated this evening, and that is Canterbury District of Sanctuary. I'd like to invite Councillor Pat Edwards to propose the motion as set out in the agenda. And I'd like to invite Councillor Peter Hall to second the motion as well.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you. I'm delighted to introduce this. Canterbury wishes to become a district of sanctuary and commits to joining the National Local Authority Sanctuary Network if you agree today. Canterbury has a long and proud history of welcoming individuals and families fleeing violence, conflict and persecution. I think we're pretty well all aware that we are a stronger, more diverse community because of the contributions of people from all backgrounds going back generations. We have an excellent track record in the City Council of delivering integration services through the UK Resettlement Scheme, Afghan Resettlement Programme and Homes for Ukraine scheme. We wish to build on this with further initiatives through our already existing partnerships and frameworks with voluntary and community groups, and especially with the University of Kent, which has also committed to be a University of Sanctuary. The purpose is to have a focus on helping people integrate into the UK and the Canterbury district community in order to contribute and play a part. The commitment to join the National City of Sanctuary, it's called, the national scheme happens to be called City of Sanctuary, but we're going for district, to be clear, we're a district. But the National City of Sanctuary Local Authority Network and sign up to the Charter is a first step to ensuring we uphold its principles and values of inclusion and equality for people seeking sanctuary. The Council recognises that a coordinated and forward-looking approach is needed to support the welfare of people moving into the district and to promote community cohesion, particularly important at this time. This work can be managed within current resources, and so the Council can make this commitment today. Seeking refugee and asylum status is a human right, supported by international law. Seeking refugee and asylum status is something we wish to support. Importantly, this is not about more people than we already support. This is about developing the current work streams, continuing to build on work with key partners, community groups, and of course, more importantly, including the voices of people who have escaped persecution across the whole district through a range of initiatives, projects and activities. This Council thereby reaffirms its commitment to a culture of welcome and respect for all, especially those seeking sanctuary. A strategic action plan will be produced soon for the Cabinet and full Council, if you agree today, outlining the plan for achieving District of Sanctuary status. This will give all councillors an opportunity to influence the direction of travel. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I'd like to invite Councillor Peter Old to second this motion, and would you like to speak now or at the end?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to speak now. And I'd like to share my delight in working on this motion, and I'd like to thank Councillor Edwards for inviting me to join her in undertaking some of this work. It's very unfortunate that a proposal that at its heart is simply about safety, dignity and respect is in danger of becoming highly contentious and deeply politicised. So I want to be clear from the outset. Immigration policy and the asylum process are not within the remit of this Council. They are the responsibility of the Home Office. We, as a local authority, do not provide accommodation for asylum seekers. That's the primary responsibility with the Home Office and its contractors, and it's completely separate from council housing. This council does not determine who or how many people are allocated to this district. That's the responsibility of the Home Office through the National Dispersal Scheme. Having said what is not our responsibility, let me turn to what is our responsibility. It's our responsibility to ensure that everyone in our district is entitled to be kept safe. It's our responsibility to ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, is treated with dignity. It's our responsibility to ensure that everyone, regardless of the journey that brought them here, is treated with respect. Lord Mayor and councillors, to those who seek to spread division and hate in our community, let's point to the heart of our district, our magnificent cathedral. That has stood for centuries as a symbol and the embodiment of the tradition of sanctuary. Let's show that we support the values of safety, dignity and respect, and let's continue that tradition of sanctuary by endorsing this motion. Councillors, thank you. I urge you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much. Before we debate this matter, I would like to invite Peter Davies to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just for clarity, Councillor Edwards did an amazing job of sort of summarising the motion, but just for clarity for everybody, the motion as set out in the report is the Council wishes to commit to becoming a district sanctuary, seeking official district sanctuary status for the whole district and joining local authority network. As such, the Council will commit to seek recognition as district sanctuary, sign up to the City of Sanctuary Charter and its principles and values, join the City of Sanctuary Local Authority Network, continue working with key partners, community groups and people who have escaped persecution to establish a timetable and action plan for delivering District of Sanctuary status, and continue to work with key partners and community groups to continue to create greater public awareness of the needs and issues of people faced by those seeking sanctuary across the whole district through a range of initiatives, projects and activities. And we'll bring a initial report to Cabinet and full Council at the earliest opportunity, outlining the action plan needed to obtain District of Sanctuary status. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I would like to invite the Council to debate this matter. Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I was thinking about how I would set out my remarks supporting this excellent motion when on Saturday we were defending our community against the far right, intimidating the residents of a children's home in my ward. This motion is not about what we are aspiring to be as a council and as a district, and not a lofty statement of intent. It is about what and who we already are, the hard work of our excellent officers, the love and support that has been shown by local people towards those who are seeking refuge from parts of the globe that are facing pressures that perhaps we can barely comprehend in the Canterbury district. The practical solidarity shown by people who have opened their homes to those needing accommodation, often those with young families fleeing the trauma of war. And the leadership shown by many of my colleagues in this chamber, not just in my party, but in other parties, and those in none. And as a district of sanctuary, we are entirely consistent with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that this administration set out in its corporate plan. And they are goals that this council can, should, and will work towards. Ending poverty, quality education, decent work and economic growth, peace, justice, and strong institutions. A district of sanctuary actually embodies all of those goals, and the people who we offer shelter to in this district and offer warmth to in this district can help us contribute to those goals. The list goes on. Those are the values we already live up to. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Mellish?
Yeah, we're on. Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Before I start my contribution, perhaps I need an apology to my colleagues on this side of the chamber. There might be a whiff of egg. Sorry, this is... There may be a whiff of egg because I was this evening down at I was down at an anti-racist demonstration in Herne Bay to counteract the far right, or the so-called patriots, as they like to term themselves. When I was hit by a so-called patriot by an egg, but it kind of puts this motion in context in terms of what we're dealing with at a local level. When this council adopts this motion, it puts in place a strategy to ensure that we are a district that is working to embed welcome and compassion, so that wherever people seeking sanctuary go, in schools, services, businesses, faith and community groups, their own neighbourhoods and streets, they will find people who welcome them and understand why they are here. This is an uphill struggle, as shown by the flying of the Union and Cross of St George flags across Herne Bay, under the supposed aim of promoting patriotism and national pride, but being used by fascist organisations like Britain First and English Defence League to give confidence to racists and fascists to target refugees and migrants. When we adopt this motion, we join the City of Sanctuary networks, which are uniquely positioned to facilitate social connections that can turn people's compassion into action. That the organisations of people are mobilised behind campaigns for change. The values of the Cities of Sanctuary network are to create opportunities for relationships of friendship and solidarity between people living in receiving communities and people seeking sanctuary. Communicate a positive vision of welcome by promoting the counter-narrative to negative rhetoric and celebrating the contribution of people seeking sanctuary. Work with people seeking sanctuary, ensuring that they are not just active participants, but are empowered to be part of the decision-making process at all levels and in all activities, not just receivers. Promote understanding of asylum and refugee issues, especially by enabling the voices of people seeking to be heard directly. When possible, we would support campaigns which aim to make a difference to the lives of people seeking sanctuary and facilitate partnership working and network development across the places of sanctuary and support collaboration on common causes of issues. We will not be alone in this. We will be joined at 106 other sanctuary networks across the UK and at least 66 local authority areas which have adopted this status of a sanctuary, City of Sanctuary. This is a movement which works together and supports each other. We can learn from others how we develop a city, a district of sanctuary. When we adopt this motion, we will begin the journey in denying racists and fascists a voice, a place in our district.
Thank you, Councillor Mellish. Can I invite Councillor Mackenzie to speak?
Okay, thank you, Lord Mayor. This motion gives us an opportunity to demonstrate exactly who we are as a council and as a district. It is not about budgets or service provisions or political point scoring. It is about our values and the vision that we have for our communities. We recently saw far-right protests on our streets in Canterbury regarding an asylum accommodation for scared unaccompanied children, and we saw what followed. Those protests were swept aside by a tidal wave of residents from across our district who came out to show kindness and empathy to those children. Acts of solidarity that outnumbered division by 2 to 1 at least. This is the same city where we opened our hearts to Ukrainians forced from their homes by Putin's illegal imperial war. This is the same city where we supported Afghan refugees driven from their homes by the Taliban only a few years ago. This is who we are. We are a welcoming community, an inclusive community, a tolerant community, and above all, we are a kind community. And this evening, we have yet another opportunity to say it proudly and prove it with the further actions contained in the City of Sanctuary Charter, such as promoting a culture of welcome here, supporting local sanctuary initiatives, working collaboratively with the community groups, and leading by example on this matter. I repeat, this is who we are. Please support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. I'd like to invite Councillor Duke to speak.
Of course, I was going to speak on this one. Often, how can I really follow what you guys have already said? Because, I mean, I'm pretty confident that we're all kind of the same mind of welcoming people, and I trust that we're all going to support this. But if there's any doubt, please just know that there are people who have made their way here, who we consider to be heroes in our district, who are making our lives much better. And they were refugees, and they're now here. And we don't consider them as any different to us. They're our heroes. I mean, I'm specifically thinking of my neighbour who has written a book. I'm obviously proud of him as being my neighbour, but, you know, incredible achievement from Mia. I'm thinking of Harry, our local Everest climber. You know, what more could you want from people in our community to look up to? And they don't have to be born here, but they're still part of us. I hear people at the I don't even know what to call them, the marches against children in homes. I mean, I think there was 3 of them at the time. And they're shouting, whose streets? And trying to follow back with our streets. And it's like, well, yeah, they are. They're our streets. They're everyone's streets. This isn't just our streets for white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. This is our streets for everyone. It makes so much more sense to include everyone in our lives because it makes us a little bit happier and it makes our experiences richer. So I really, really hope that I do trust everyone here to vote for this, because I can't imagine us not. We all get on perfectly well, and I hope we're of the same minds and that you'll all vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Duke. Can I invite Councillor Ricketts to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There's been some fantastic contributions, and actually Councillor Mackenzie said what I broadly wanted to say, which is this really speaks to who we are and what our values are. And that's a question that seems to be up for grabs a lot at the moment. There's a lot of people who seem to want to define who I am by telling me what flag I should be hanging and what I should be doing and who I should be following. But you only really see yourself when you can get an idea of how strangers see you. And I was lucky enough a few years ago to hear a talk from a guy called Hassan Akkad, who fled Syria and was granted asylum in this country. And he told, amongst some incredible stories, and one that really struck me was he travelled all the way across Europe and he met some horrible treatment. He was beaten up by police. He was held in detention. He had all sorts of things happen. And he said when he arrived in this country, he found himself in another detention cell. And the man in a uniform came in and he thought, here we go again. And that guy said, have you eaten? Can I get you a sandwich? Can I get you some water? And he said, that's the first place I went on my travel, where before the questioning started, before what happened, the human decency of that man to offer me food and water. And he said, I don't think you know how great your country is. And that's who I think we are, and that's how I want to be defined. And I think this motion defines us in exactly that way. So I urge you all to vote for it.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Sol to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I support this motion because I believe that this district is already a city of sanctuary. This gives us the label, the title, but it is what we are. And I'd like to give an example of this. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I was a volunteer with the charity called Volunteers Matter. And I was paired up with a young Afghan man. He was 21 years old. He'd made his way over to the UK, I believe, in the back of a lorry. His family had been, well, I believe his father had been killed by the Taliban. The rest of his family were in significant fear of their lives. And he'd made his way over to the UK. Once he was here, he had been welcomed. He was at at Kent College, and he was working, training there, learning his English, and very much welcomed by people. I met up with him about once a month, and we'd have a coffee, have a chat. And as I got to know him, he was about the same age as my son at the time. You know, it broke down all those barriers. This was a young man, no different to any other young man born in this country, apart from he happened to have been born somewhere else in a country that had been ravished by war. And when he needed things, I often went out to the community and people were welcoming. There was a local boxing club who was able to give him free lessons to help him. I knew I had friends who donated a small television to him so he could watch TV and books. And over a period of about a year, I got to know this young man, and he benefited so much just from the love that this city gave to him. And that's why I'm very much in support of this motion. I think it just gives us this label, this title for what I know this district is, and the good and the love that comes from the people that live here.
Sorry about that. Can I invite Councillor Nolan to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is nothing new. Canterbury people have been welcoming people. It's been documented that the St Bartholomew Day massacre in 1577, got the sweet spot. May I begin again? This is nothing new. People in Canterbury have been welcoming people for hundreds of years. The St Bartholomew Day massacre in 1572 brought the Huguenot refugees across in great number to Canterbury, and look how they left their imprint, and they're still here in Canterbury. You only have to look up at the weavers' windows to see the mark that they made. More recently, successive waves of refugees finding their way here have left their mark. Strong communities giving back to our community. Mention was made of Harry Buddha Mega. He talks to schools to inspire children. He talks about the fact that you mustn't give up. And I think that's really important. I've often been humbled working with the Ukrainians that have come to Canterbury. Humbled because they never give up. And if I could just indulge and perhaps embarrass our former Lord Mayor, Councillor Jean Butcher, I remember that she was invited to speak on their Independence Day, and it was pouring with rain. And I said to the organisers, I said, well, what's the plan B? And as usual, the Ukrainian response was, there is no plan B for our soldiers who are fighting in the trenches. We will stand in the rain. I said, that's all very well. That's all very well, I said, but I can't expect the Lord Mayor of Canterbury to stand in the rain. And so at the last minute, I went to the Marlow Theatre and explained the situation. And as often is the case, the people, the organisations of Canterbury open up their hearts to people who they recognise as struggling and whatever. And there's so many people and organisations I could pay tribute to that I have witnessed at the very beginning when the war started and the Ukrainians in Canterbury came to me and asked me if I could help. The first thing they wanted to do is, well, the very first thing they did was form the women's choir. But the next thing, they wanted to have somewhere for their children to come together to make sure they didn't lose their culture. And I remember going to Joey Wicks at the Prince of Wales and saying, can we use your centre for the Saturday youth hub? And he said, yes, of course. And then I said, but we haven't got any money. And he said, don't worry, the money will come. And then a bit later, I was talking with the Vice-Chancellor of Canterbury Christ Church University that had opened up its linguistics department for language classes for the Ukrainians. And he said to me, I'm a little bit concerned because there's no money. And I said, don't worry, the money will come, because the money always comes in some form or another. And as has been said by other councillors here, this isn't because we're a lefty council. This isn't because we think it's a great label to have. This is because this is Canterbury. This is us.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. Can I invite Councillor Dawkins to speak?
Is it safe? Yeah. Okay. Okay. The clock started. Yeah. So as my colleague Councillor Nolan has said, this has always been a place of welcome. You know, the Pilgrims travelled here centuries ago, and now it's a place for students, families and workers all to call their home. So the story of Canterbury and the district hasn't been one of isolation, but one of connection. So supporting this motion tonight is about recognising that spirit. The idea that everyone deserves safety, dignity and the chance to belong. But I do want to address a challenging rhetoric. I know that not everyone feels entirely comfortable with the phrase or the concept of City of Sanctuary. And some worry it means open borders and unlimited responsibilities. Others feel our local services are already under strain and they are entitled to raise those concerns. We live in a democracy, of course. But a City of Sanctuary is not about taking on what we can't manage. It's about doing what we can with compassion and with care. And over the recent weeks, we've seen protests and counter-protests here in Canterbury and across Kent. And those events remind us that feelings are running high and that fear of misinformation and frustration can easily divide communities if we let them. But those scenes also remind us of why this motion tonight matters, because when people are angry or anxious, leadership means listening and standing firm on values. It means showing that disagreement doesn't have to become division and that our city remains a place of civility, commonality and safety for everyone. Home. Being a City of Sanctuary doesn't mean ignoring local needs either. It means recognising that compassion is not just nothing. It means when we build on inclusivity, welcoming community, it benefits everyone. And a lot of you have spoken about that tonight, about all the relationships and from your neighbours or friends or whatever. So division and fear harms us all. It breaks down community. So for me, this motion tonight is about hope for a better future for everyone, built on respect, trust and friendship. A City of Sanctuary doesn't mean a city without limits. It means a city with values. We can't solve a global problem, but we can decide what kind of district and place to live we want to be, like a lot of you have said. So I welcome this motion tonight and I hope that we all vote for it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more speakers? Councillor Carnac?
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. I too am very proud of the role we play both in this council and in the last administration in welcoming people from Afghanistan and Ukraine who were fleeing war and terror. We did that through collaborative working with government, the council, schools, universities and many community groups, and lots of fantastic residents who offered rooms in their homes, their love and compassion. Since then, I feel that much of that collaboration has gone. As we found on housing, the Home Office works mainly through private contractors, which are very much arm's length to the council, schools and the community. As backbench members in opposition, we have not been included in any of the discussions or initiatives and feel very much in the dark about the work that is being undertaken. We therefore know very little about what a district of sanctuary means or the policy implications it might have on the district. I had a conversation with Councillor Edwards in September, which I'm grateful for, and that was helpful, but that has been all. In light of recent events in Herne Bay, I have asked officers and some councillors for an all-councillor briefing on the policies for supporting and housing refugees in our district, but that has yet to happen. This motion is a form of very fine words. It says everything that is positive and welcoming, but if a resident comes up to me in the street tomorrow and asks, what is it that we've actually signed up to tonight? In honesty, I'm going to have to say that I don't know. What will it do? What will it change? Without an all-councillor briefing, a detailed report and some ideas of how this will impact policy and the budgetary implications for this council, I don't have the confidence to support this at the moment. I've been told that by being a district of sanctuary, it will make it easier for officers to implement policy, but in which ways and how? We do good things already. Why does that make it different now? Why do we need the label of being a district of sanctuary to do good things? This has still not been answered. I'd also note that despite Birmingham being a city of sanctuary, that hasn't meant the police can guarantee the safety of visiting Jewish football supporters next week. I would prefer that this motion is deferred for further thought. I would ask that we only agree this evening to item 5, requesting that an initial report is brought to Cabinet and full council at the earliest opportunity, outlining the action plan needed to obtain district of sanctuary status and what policies would be part of this, and that this is made before we sign up to any charter or local authority network, so that all members here who represent different parts of the district know what we're signing up to. Therefore, I cannot vote for this motion in its current form. In spite of its positivity, its fine words, and it speaks to our values, I do not know enough about this motion to be able to vote confidently and to be able to speak to my residents and explain to them exactly what I've voted for this evening. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. One of the great things about this motion is that it does, as the previous speakers have said, reflect who we are in Canterbury. And that includes, as Councillor Carnac has just expressed, some doubts about understanding what we're signing up for. But what it does give us is a symbol of what we are and where we are that we can point to. And she's right to say that there's actually good communication on this and making it easy to explain to people is a good thing. Because I do think that this is something that you need to express in simple terms so that everybody can have a clear grasp of what it is we're talking about here. Where I disagree with her is that I will and do feel that I understand this. Almost everybody here has in some shape or form worked with people coming into our district. And I would certainly encourage people who are out there who have doubts and who express, sometimes express in marches and things, express doubts, but are not very anti these people. They're just lacking in knowledge to engage with those people, to engage with the charities and people that organise these things, to actually do some research on their own, to search the sort of media that's out there about these districts, to learn what it is that this means and that what it is that we are doing when we talk about a district of sanctuary, to help people coming into our area, to help people coming into our country is a great thing to do, and it's something we have a long history of, and you can see it in the massive difference of surnames that you come across in our district. Ones like Carnac, for example, which is in France, I believe, and was probably connected with the Huguenots. Ones like Gascoigne. There are many Gascoignes out there from Gascony, from the 100 Years' War. There are many, many places that down history where these buildings have stood and welcomed the people. And I think this is something that this motion speaks to and gives a forward-seeking direction to, and we should wholeheartedly support this concept and also encourage more people to understand it, because there are clearly some who don't understand what this is doing, and I think that needs to be worked on too. So I do agree with that point, and I think it's a very worthwhile one to make. Work hard on making sure people see what we are and that these actually are just British values that we are bringing to bear, and we're focusing on making ourselves a district of sanctuary. Long may it last. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I invite Councillor Watkins to speak?
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Look, following on what a lot of people said, also very positive about the role we've played supporting Ukrainians, Afghans, and other refugee groups who arrived here in the past. And I think we all support British values of inclusivity and tolerance. I think they are very valuable to us, and we act upon them in all the work we do. I've got two concerns which build really upon what Councillor Carnac has said, and I just invite everyone to sort of consider them. The first thing is just about the timing of this motion. I'm aware that some refugee charities based in this part of Kent have written to other East Kent local authorities saying they don't wish City of Sanctuary motions to go ahead at this time, because they fear it exacerbates the division that sadly there is more of in our communities at the moment. And I should say, I am really sad to hear, Councillor Mellish, that you've been a victim of intimidation and aggression this evening in Herne Bay. So I do think we should listen to what refugee charities are saying, and I have some sympathy with the argument that now is not the time. The second point would be a more pragmatic one, and exactly as Councillor Carnac said, if this motion is purely symbolic, some people have said there is no resourcing requirement to action this. It's purely symbolic. Well, if that's the case, then let us say that clearly. I'm not sure that is what's being said. Other people, and indeed some of the wording in the motion, do suggest that there would be some resources put in place to make the district more welcoming in whichever way we are going to define that. But as soon as we come to resourcing anything, it becomes a matter of prioritisation. Is that the right prioritisation of officer time versus, say, the housing problem we have at the moment? The regulator has just said that our council housing is not up to scratch. Haven't got a good rating. Maybe that's the better prioritisation. And it's not clear from this motion that is the case. And as someone who always tries to be pragmatic and make sure everything we agree is sustainable and doesn't crowd out other really valuable projects, I would like to see much more detail on that before it come forward. So they're my two points. And as it stands, for those reasons, I can't support this motion at this time.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Baldock to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I actually wasn't going to say a great deal, because I leave it with my colleagues who brought this motion together. I'm immensely proud that it's here today. And in answer to the points that Councillor Watkins and Councillor Carnac made, I look at it this way. As every single one of us as councillors in this room, we are leaders of our community, but collectively, we are leaders of this district. And I think when the going gets tough, because now it is tougher, because there's two loud voices in the room. There's the one that's been there a long time. We're a welcoming district. We know that. We've had it demonstrated for years, 900 years, actually. But there's another loud voice chattering away in that background. So people look to us in this room, to endorse it. For them, it's okay to carry on being that loud voice, that welcoming voice, that voice that welcomes people to our district. Be proud of who you are, because that's good. We need to say it's okay to carry on feeling like you are, and the City of Sanctuary is that bridge. We are that value system. We say it's okay. We will do what we can. And life changes all the time. Sometimes something will come in and we need to do it. And we will do it. There could be refugees from any part of the world at any time. Climate refugees or refugees from war or whatever it is. We need to be a district that says, it's okay. You can come here. We'll sort it out. We'll work it out. Connie's point, the money will come. You can't worry about what you don't happen, but what you can do as a leader is say it's okay to be a city of sanctuary. It's okay to join us on that journey. It's okay to be that welcoming person that you really are in your heart. And yes, there's voices out there that are not like you, but it's still okay for you to be that voice. Don't shut up, don't hide. And that's why I don't agree actually with what the charities have said. That's hiding. We need to face this down, and that's what we will do. As a district, we should be proud of what we've done, proud of what we do, and carry on doing it, and let other people know that we're proud to do it, and they can come and join us on that journey too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. Can I invite Councillor Botwell to speak, and then Councillor Holt?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I support this motion, and I endorse the important work that is being done to welcome people from all backgrounds to this city. However, we cannot sit on our laurels. I have friends of colour who were telling me only the other day that they regularly encounter racism when walking around the streets of Canterbury. So there is much more that we need to do to be vigilant in working harder to challenge racism wherever we encounter it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Botwell. Can I ask Councillor Old to speak, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to come back on the point raised by...
Sorry, excuse me, Lord Mayor. Councillor Old's already spoken on this item. Point of order.
It's a point of order trying to deal with some misinformation that was presented earlier.
Come on. There's nothing to do.
What is the point of order, Councillor Old?
The point of order is that Councillor Watkins suggested that refugee agencies were not supportive of this motion. Can I just read to you? Canterbury welcomes refugees, trustees and Met and agreed to support the application with the following comments. Yeah. The resettlement team have years of experience.
Sorry, excuse me, Councillor Old. A point of order has to... let me just read it out for you. Council may raise a point of order at any time. The Lord Mayor will hear them immediately, but a point of order may only relate to an alleged breach of these council procedure rules or the law. The member must indicate the rule or law and the way in which they consider it has been broken. I'll read it out.
Can I ask Councillor Flanagan?
I'll just say, I don't think it's a point of order, but if he's going to speak again, that's fine. I'm actually happy for him to make his point, but I would just ask to make a counterpoint on that. That's all I'd say. I'm happy if he needs to speak.
Can I ask Councillor Flanagan to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Well, I'll read out what Councillor Old wasn't allowed to read out. So here it is. Our key partners are supportive of our application. Canterbury welcomes refugees, trustees met and agreed to support the application with the following comments. The resettlement team have years of experience in supporting refugee families and have developed a great model of working, which will be a great basis for a City of Sanctuary application, which will hopefully reach all parts of the council. Many thanks for this invitation to support the application, which I think is a great step for Canterbury. Homes for Ukraine have given their support for the application. CRAN, that's Kent Refugee Action Network, feedback from the Chief Executive. So glad this is being taken forward. We would fully support the application for Canterbury becoming a City of Sanctuary and would support this in any way that we can. And finally, Social Justice Network, delighted to support this application. I think that's pretty much enough information there to dispel the comment that was made earlier, I'm afraid, by Councillor Watkins. Thank you.
You go through the chair, please. Sorry, can we have order in the House, please? Thank you very much. Can I invite Councillor Castle to speak? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Excellent to hear everything tonight. I wasn't going to say anything on this because everyone's covered it. But I think what's disappointing is, and I'll hark back to when I got elected to this council, and I only mention this because Councillor Sol, I had a very large majority in my seat, but unfortunately not everybody voted. And I think it's really disappointing to hear from the Tories tonight that they're letting a minority voice in the district sound out the majority. When I see my daughters, when I see their friends, when I see the community, nobody wants hate, nobody wants division, nobody wants the flag hijacked for a minority of people. And I think that's a real disappointment that you can't support the motion, because at the end of the motion, it does say a report will come back to Cabinet of how we'll progress. And communication is a key job of all of us as councillors. And sometimes we're good at it. I've had a bad week on Facebook, but not everyone's good at it. And everyone has a bad day. And I think it's disappointing, and it's not meant personally, but as a ward and an area, you're obviously under a lot of pressure as councillors about this motion and the publicity around it. But it's a positive step. It's not a negative step. And the communication after tonight will be key. And Dan touched on that. And so I'm fully supportive, and I think it's a fantastic motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else?
Brady.
Councillor Stockley.
No, Brady didn't.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm trying not to be tribal about this, but I honestly, as Councillor Carnac has said, when my residents stop me in the street and ask me why and what this vote actually means, in pounds, shillings and pence, what it actually means for the residents who are coming to our district and for our residents who are currently living in our district, I can't tell them. This doesn't tell me. You know, it's fine. You know, I'm moving towards understanding what the majority of the councillors are feeling here. You know, we do want to welcome those that have been suppressed, shot at, murdered, whatever. But we have to bear in mind that we have to represent our people. And I can't represent my people without the knowledge or at least an understanding of what I'm actually voting for. This is fine words, but it doesn't actually tell anything. We need a report. We need something concrete. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Brady to speak?
When your residents walk up to you and say, "What does this actually mean?" This means about being more caring to others. When they might have an issue and take umbrance and say, "Well, why are we not looking after our own?" You say to them that we are a caring city. We've been a caring city for 900 years. When they say, as Councillor Carnac said, that we need more information, we don't have that, you point them to point 5, where it says, bring an initial report to Cabinet and full Council at the earliest opportunity, outlining the action plan needed to obtain District of Sanctuary status. When they might say, as Mr. Watkins, Councillor Watkins has said about timing, you say, we look at Kent County Council. We look at the party that has just taken over there, who are blaming everything on, and all the problems in this country, on people with a different skin colour to us. When they say, what about timing? You say there are protests on the streets that are using our country's flag as a weapon against care and compassion. That's what you say, because you stick up for this district and what we're meant to be. We don't get onto the bandwagon of the far-right protests and go, we are scared of people that we do not know. We go, as others have said, we get to know them, so we're not scared of them. I'm supporting this. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Dawkins, did you want to raise a point of order?
It was just a point of clarification, but Councillor Brady's said about how this report will go. It will go. We're voting for it to go.
Thank you, Councillor Dawkins.
And then come back with a report, you know, because there's been confusion.
Thank you very much. Can I, Councillor Thomas, please, to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think this has got kind of out of hand. I've got a daughter who has fought for this country, fought for her. And when your daughter says to you, do you know what the sound of a bullet sounds like passing your ear? And I don't want to hear that. And that's the truth. So when I'm welcoming and supportive. I can't be any more supportive. I've got a daughter that supports the whole country and the King and Queen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we have no one else wanting to speak, I will invite Councillor Edwards, sorry, to sum up for us. Thank you very much.
Lord Mayor, thank you very much. First of all, I thought a lot of the speeches have echoed some of the points behind this motion very well, and councillors have spoken well. The concerns, I think, you know, those concerns that have been raised by Councillor Carnac and particularly, I did have a long conversation with Councillor Carnac, and I do appreciate that we do need to be really transparent about what we're doing here. I think that is incredibly important. I take the point, and I think that we should all take the point, actually, because if there are councillors who are not aware of what's going on in the district, in particularly their part of the district, then we need to take that on board. But the point of this is to do exactly that. It's to be clearer about the work streams we've already got, working with the partners we've already got, and expanding that work into a citywide awareness to deal with the opposition that we're facing all around us at the moment. I mean, I would like to cite yet another local charity that's supporting this. 3 have been mentioned, but they said that they actually thought that this was a good action plan, that a lot of these sanctuary motions that they've seen, I shared this with them, and I feel that it is quite a clear set of action points. So I'd like to support the fact that we can make this decision now. I'd like to also answer the point about, about resources. I have dealt with quite a number of the people involved in these schemes in discussion about this, and together with Peter Old, we've had some meetings. We've also had some meetings with management involved, and these work streams can be expanded to do what we've got in this motion, and in fact would be going in that direction anyway. So we are supporting work that people are already wanting to do. Now, I am assured we can manage that work, and that what it does is simply solidify, improve on, and clarify work streams that we want, or we or the officers as well as us want to have in train. So I don't think that we are, you know, in a pound, shillings and pence debate here, but what we are in is an important focus of work with the community. And as I say, we've got several community groups very keen to do this work with us. That is sharing the work. It's not just about what we do as a council. And I think that the issue about timing is quite a critical one, really, because I've been in 2 of these demonstrations, so along with Paul last weekend and Connie, obviously, in our own ward, where the children's home's been targeted twice, and last month. And it's very, very heartening to see that people do want to take action. They want to stand up, and they want to stand up right now when, you know, as Alistair has said, we've got forces at play at different levels in our organisation in this county. It's really, really important we stand up for what we believe in and we do what's right. So please support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Andrea, can we take a recorded vote?
So that motion is carried with 27 in favour and 7 abstaining.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move to the next motion, and I would invite Councillor Beth Forrester to propose the motion as set out in the agenda.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can everyone hear me, given this mic issue? I'm pleased to introduce this motion for the Council to seek white ribbon accreditation today. I refer to the background information and shocking evidence and statistics as set out in the agenda for this motion, which I trust Council will have read, but I wish to repeat 2 points. A third of girls have experienced sexual harassment at school. That's children at school. And 2 women in England and Wales are killed by a current or former partner every week. Every single week. Given that, I'm pleased to see that so many of my fellow councillors, in addition to the many remembrance poppies tonight, are wearing white ribbon badges and have already pledged their support as champions or ambassadors. We've already seen tonight evidence of the council's values and the importance of those to many of us. We've seen from the previous motion that this is a district which strives to be welcoming and safe for all, men and women, boys and girls, and this motion recognises that value. But we can also always reiterate and strengthen our commitment. And based on that, I set out to you that this council resolves to encourage all male councillors and staff to take the White Ribbon Pledge, to never to take part in, condone or stay silent about violence against women, to call out all forms of sexual objectification and all its negative outcomes, and encourage others to do the same. To work towards the White Ribbon accreditation, joining hundreds of organisations across England and Wales that have already done so. To mark White Ribbon Day on the 25th of November each year and encourage participation amongst councillors, staff and local organisations. To continue to work year-round with organisations and support campaigns for the end of violence against women and the promotion of healthy relationships. And I ask the Leader and Deputy Leader of the Council to write to the Secretary of State for Education to request further work be done in support of all elements of this motion. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councillor Forrester. Can I invite Councillor Grace Paget to second the motion, and if she would like to speak now or at the end of the debate?
Seconded, Lord Mayor. I'll speak later, please.
Thank you. I'll now like to invite the council to debate this matter. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I thoroughly support this motion, and thank you for bringing it. I think this is a really crucial matter that needs to be aired and discussed, and we need to be open about this. I've been appalled to hear some of the comments at KCC when a similar thing was brought. I know people were there, and it was shocking that people were suggesting that this was specific to particular cultures and people who are coming into this country. It's not. It's in homes. It's across all cultures. It's not at all, and that's completely the wrong thing to say. And I would have liked some kind of acknowledgement in there. I think that this cuts across all cultures, all races, etc. It is a massive problem. It's behind closed doors. It's not seen. I'd also like to see more about education for young people, so that young men know what is acceptable behaviour in relationships, and young women know what is acceptable behaviour in relationships, and are able to call it out and make themselves safe when they need to. I think education is a massive point here. I was talking to a young woman yesterday who has been subjected to domestic abuse, and it's shocking. And it is an intelligent, educated young woman who is saying, I know the signs, I know what it is, and yet I'm still there. So much needs to be done, and I do support this motion. Thank you for bringing it. But I would have liked it slightly stronger, I think, just to acknowledge it's a problem that cuts across all strata of society and all cultures. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm speaking today not just as a councillor, but as a man who believes we all have a part to play in tackling violence against women and girls. This isn't something happening somewhere else. It's happening in every city, in homes, our schools, our workplaces. It's in the stories we don't hear, the silence we don't challenge, and it's not rare. 1 in 3 women will face domestic abuse. 2 women a week are killed by a partner or ex-partner, which has been mentioned by Beth. And this is not just shocking, it's heartbreaking. I'm disappointed to say I have come from a place, Kent County Council, where recently we saw councillors from the administration use a motion which was intended to strengthen safeguards to tackle violence against women and girls as an opportunity to baselessly blame immigrants, where councillors demonstrated that they did not understand the issue by saying we should deal with violence against everyone and to score political points. But not today. I'm proud to be part of this council, a council which recognises more needs to be done, but looks to further understand the issue and seeks to find ways to tackle the problem, not engage in unacceptable behaviour which I witnessed at County Hall, and not engage in political point scoring on this incredibly important subject. This is not just about physical violence, it's about everyday harassment, the bullying, the objectification, it's the culture that lets it slide. I was recently in a local barber's where men were talking about the good old days, about being less woke, being able to make comments and act in an unacceptable way and get away with it because it's just a laugh. I mean, I challenged them. It created an awkward situation. But if the awkwardness goes some way to making women and girls safer, then let's do that. That's why this motion matters. It's about backing the White Ribbon campaign, which asks men to take a simple but powerful pledge not to commit, condone, or stay silent about violence against women and girls. As councillors, we have a platform. So let's use it. Let's take the pledge. Let's wear the ribbon. Let's call it out when we see it, whether it's a joke, a comment, or something more serious. This isn't about ticking boxes. It's about changing culture. It's about making Canterbury a place where women and girls feel safe, respected, and heard. So I ask, especially men in the room, let's be part of the solution. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brady. Can I invite Councillor Mackenzie to speak?
Okay, thank you, Lord Mayor. In 2021, I worked with councillors Connie Nolan, Pip Hazelton, and Alistair Brady and Mel Dawkins to launch the Reclaim These Streets March in Canterbury. Some of you might remember it from the papers. Hundreds joined us from across the district to show their solidarity with women and girls facing what was, and sadly still is, an epidemic of violence against women and girls. Since then, we have seen tireless efforts by groups and organisations such as the Soroptimists, the Rising Sun, the local student unions, and others to tackle violence against women and girls. Collective efforts where people in our communities have come together to confront such violence and continue to do so. And this goes back to what I said in the earlier motion. This is who we are. This is who we are as Canterbury, as Herne Bay, as Whitstable, as the Villages. We are a community that respects and protects women and girls and rejects male violence. Tonight, all of us, especially us men, have an opportunity to show leadership for our communities. By making this declaration, we send a message to our district that gender-based violence has no place in our home. And this is personal to me as well. Since my only positive male role model in my life died when I was 10, me and my brother were raised almost entirely by 4 women who provided us with everything that we are and everything that we have. And if anything was to ever happen to any one of them, it would absolutely break me. My love for my family and my desire for them to be free from harm is part of my commitment to ending violence against women and girls, as I know is true of every other man in this room today. And it is upon all of us to answer this call, to stand up for the women in our lives who we care about, to stand up for what is morally right, and to demonstrate this by making this declaration tonight. And in the spirit of that, to conclude, I have the declaration ready on my phone here, and I'm going to submit it all in front of you today. It says, I promise never to use, excuse, or remain silent about men's violence against women. My details are in it, and I've pressed the button. There we go. Thank you.
Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So violence against women and girls is driven by multiple overlapping factors rather than a single cause, but is fundamentally rooted in gender inequality. It's crucial to remember that the victim is never responsible for the violence. Responsibility always lies with the perpetrator, whose actions and behaviours are influenced by a complex interplay of societal, community, relationship and individual factors. When I was at school and university in the 1960s and 70s, women were told that we shouldn't wear skirts that were too short, walk home on our own, or have one drink too many. If we did, we were asking for it. That any unwanted behaviour from men towards us was somehow our fault, and that if we weren't flattered by or passive in the face of aggression, we had no one to blame but ourselves for the consequences. Classic victim blaming. It also somehow presumed that men couldn't help themselves, that testosterone-fueled aggression or predatory behaviour was normal and even desirable. That was 50 years ago, and sadly such attitudes still remain. Much behaviour isn't extreme. It's very often microaggressions, a crude remark, a so-called flattering comment, a casual insult, a touch that lingers too long and in the wrong place. Every woman in this place knows what I mean, and every man in his heart knows that they have witnessed this behaviour too, even if they haven't done it themselves. Men, lovely men, our own boyfriends, brothers, husbands and sons are not immune from such societal pressure. It's hard to take a stand, and so too often good men stay silent, not knowing what to do or say or how to help a female victim. That's a really good reason for everyone to support this motion, so that together men can take responsibility safely for distancing themselves from and challenging such attitudes and behaviours. Let us as a City Council take a stand and together make our district a safer and more comfortable place to live, study, work and visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelton. Can I invite Councillor Dupe to speak?
Every single woman you know has experienced some kind of harassment, abuse, anything of a bit of a nasty nature. Every single one.
Can I invite Councillor Stockley to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've got a declaration to make that personally I have been a victim of domestic abuse and violence, controlling. It was many years ago. I was a much younger man, and it was relatively simple for me to get out of that situation. I don't in any way pretend it's equal to some women who have children and families, etc., which find it much more difficult. My main concern is the fact that while I agree with this, and I have no intention of trying to pull the teeth on it in any way, I would like to consider the fact that the Office of National Statistics for the year just gone, 24, 712,000 men experienced domestic abuse and reported it. This is a drastic underestimation. It's also reckoned by the same authority that it's underestimated by at least 500,000. So while I accept that women are the main victim of this type of behaviour, I think that this the motion misses the fact that we are here to represent all of our residents. Women take the brunt of this, but men are also subject to this type of abuse. Whether or not it would be appropriate, in my view, to look at the resolution, i.e. to encourage all male councillors and staff to take the white ribbon pledge, well, why not make all, not just women, not just men, but everybody? You know, I think we are in danger of implying that all men are in some way to blame for this situation. I don't wish to belittle or discourage anyone from supporting this, but I do think we need to consider the fact that women are not the only victims of domestic violence in the home. I think everybody deserves the right to feel safe in their own home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stockley. Councillor Ricketts.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I was looking forward to this passing relatively uncontroversially through this chamber, noting the white ribbons being worn, and having been in that chamber where a similar motion was roundly abused by the administration, and I was hoping that Councillor Heaver would be able to stay in his seat for this one this evening as well. I understand Councillor Stockley's point, and I understand the place it comes from. But what I would suggest is that perhaps you could work on bringing a motion to a future council meeting addressing that issue. It is a massive issue. There are huge issues. And actually, the points that Councillor Hazelton talked about in terms of society and the way that a lot of people have been brought up, that sort of society is massively disadvantageous to men as well, because that encourages male violence against men as much as it encourages male violence against women. So I understand where that point has come from, Councillor Stockley, and I urge you, and I'm happy to work with you perhaps on bringing something forward. But what I would say is this is not the time for that. This is about an issue which is very bad and getting worse in our society at the moment. And it's important to deal with this at the moment because of the way that we saw this dismissed in Maidstone not long ago, the way that there are forces in our society at the moment that would like to dismiss this. And I'm not for a moment, for the avoidance of doubt, suggesting that that's what you were trying to do, but it's important that we don't confuse this issue this evening and give succour to those who would want to dismiss these issues. I hope that we can all vote for this evening, and I will join Councillor Mackenzie in signing up the moment I find the link. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dawkins.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to share a small point because it hasn't come up yet. But as someone who knows people who have experienced domestic violence, and I have myself as well, been confessing there, I appreciate that. I've seen the lasting impact it can have, and it's not just physical; it can be very emotional. And one of the hardest things survivors have to deal with is this huge amount of shame and embarrassment you carry. You don't want to talk about it. You're embarrassed, you're ashamed, and it can be very isolating. So having that symbol means so much. It tells people, especially women with lived experience and men as well, that it's a safe place, that people have understood this, and there's that understanding, compassion, and awareness. So it sort of says that you're not alone and you don't have to hide, and you don't have to feel that shame or embarrassment anymore. So I just want to get that point across, and yes, so I'll be voting for it, obviously.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dawkins. Do we have any more speaker on this? Councillor Carnack.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yeah, just very quickly, I wanted to say, yes, I think we all support this motion. It's something that obviously affects 51% of the population, or however many we now are. What I would just ask is that, again, out of this, we look quite deeply at some of our policy that we have. We've taken great steps in recent years in community safety, and I know Councillor Nolan has been very involved, and her predecessors, along with the Kent Police and Crime Commissioner, on really taking some positive steps to fight sexual violence and abuse of women. But I know sometimes things come up on housing where we still seem to have some discriminatory policies that support men married the husband over the wife's rights. And I think maybe by passing this motion, that will allow us perhaps to drill down into some of our policy and look at some of these cases where, where women find it difficult to escape a situation because of the way policy is determined on who, say, the lead tenant is in in housing. So that's just one case, but I'm sure we've got others. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carnac. Anyone else? Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I don't want to repeat anything that anybody's already said, and I agree with most of everything people have said. I just wanted to remind people about domestic violence, that in a situation where there is domestic violence, it affects the children as well. And it perpetuates an idea that a man is strong because he can overcome his wife, because he can frighten his children. And that's part of this white ribbon thing as well. It's about making sure that our future generation doesn't have that situation where the children are told, don't upset daddy. You don't want daddy getting cross now. So domestic violence affects the whole family, not just the woman. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Well, which Mayor? Oh, sorry, Naomi.
Could you clarify?
We were both waving our hands. After you, Naomi, ladies first. So I didn't see your hand down there.
Thank you. I'm obviously in favour of this motion because I'm wearing a white ribbon. I see this motion as about asking our male councillors, our male officers, and our male friends to call out, as Councillor Brady said, you have to call out when you see a group of lads going, "Oh, look at her," you know, or "Why haven't give us a smile, love? What's wrong with you?" All of that sort of thing these are all these micro harassments that happen, and it's really about that, because all that feeds into making people feel unsafe when they're walking streets. It's not just about what happens behind closed doors. It's very much about how women are treated in this society. And we have some people who are, you know, you've got people like Elon Musk who are supporting Andrew Tate as a model of, you know, and these people are just, you know, the worst way of treating women, see women as goods. And we need to be calling it out all the time. So I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Naomi Smith. Can I invite Councillor Dan Smith to speak?
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor, and apologies for the confusion. My esteemed colleague Naomi probably is a much better speaker than I on this matter. What I would like to say is I absolutely agree with what she said and what previous speakers have said, where they're supporting this matter. And Councillor Mackenzie was actually signing up to something. I would ask that that link is put in the minutes so that anyone else who reads it online can access that easily, because I suggest that this is a really good thing to do. And certainly every male certainly should look at that and consider it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more speaker on this matter? If not, I will ask Councillor Pageant to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm pleased to second this motion, which is on such an important topic, and thank everyone who has spoken in this debate this evening, including Councillor Forrester, who proposed it. As has been referenced, White Ribbon Day takes place on the 25th of November and is an opportunity to highlight commitment to tackling violence against women and girls, behind which there will be many poignant stories of those who bravely speak out. Whilst White Ribbon UK is a charity focusing its mission on engaging with men and boys to prevent violence against women and girls, as has been mentioned tonight, I think it's important at this point just to recognise that domestic violence does, of course, occur towards men as well. This motion does set out the shocking reality for women in particular, and I return to the fact that ONS figures show that almost 1 in 3 women will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime, and that Girl Guiding UK found that 77% of girls and young women aged 7 to 21 have experienced online harm in the last year, something that must be tackled in an age of ever-expanding digital technology. I'd like to pay tribute to all the charities who work tirelessly to prevent violence against women and girls and support those who are affected. Their work is sadly essential. I ask councillors this evening for their support for this motion as we focus on how Canterbury City Council can contribute to the protection of women and girls and all those who are at risk of domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pageant. Andrea, can we take a recorded vote? Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Forrester, could you sum it up? Thank you very much.
No, I've written things to say. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm very grateful to everyone's contributions to the debate and that there was a warm welcome from councillors across council. Particular thanks to Councillor Paget for seconding the motion and recognising the importance of this issue to both of us. To Councillor Turnbull, I note your points. I was not trying to list in the motion all scenarios of violence against women or perpetrators of these crimes, as it's so widespread that any attempt to do so would fail. But that's indeed why the motion is so important, I believe. So thank you for your support, and please be assured that, as I said at the outset, while there is much good work already being done, some of which Councillor Mackenzie noted, and which has been evidenced by the accreditation of the Purple Flag to Canterbury for what I believe is the 14th consecutive year, more can be done, and I hope that support for this motion will go towards that and raise that profile further. Councillor Stockley, thank you for your contribution, and I note your point. However, the White Ribbon Pledge is for men to make. That's being determined by the charity. So that's why the motion reflects that. Women can be champions, but cannot make the pledge, and that is why that part of the resolution is directed only at men. But I note your concerns. And that's because the greatest cure is always prevention. And as such, an end to violence against women and girls will only ever be possible with action from all of us, but especially with action engagement from men. Unacceptable behaviour sometimes only takes place in male-only environments and has to be called out, as Councillor Brady did so recently. And young men and boys will look up to male role models, whoever they may be, which is why the motion calls for all male councillors as role models in the district and staff to take the White Ribbon Pledge, as we all saw Councillor Mackenzie do earlier, and which I'd be happy to circulate to all councillors after this meeting. So, for the reasons I've set out, and which have been extrapolated on by my much more eloquent colleagues across the chamber, I hope this motion can receive the support of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Can we take a recorded vote? Thank you very much.
And that's carried unanimously, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Thomas, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, yes, please, Lord Mayor. Basically, I've just come back from holiday and I've been a busy week and I've not read all the motions, and I've just realised motion C is to do with Stodmarsh, and I've got a planning application going through that's been held up with Stodmarsh, so I think I should leave this meeting until it's gone through. Thank you. I take advice, Lord Mayor. I'm just being over precautious. So if everyone's
Sorry. Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. We'll just take that. Can we settle down? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. We'll just take that as a voluntary declaration and you can stay for the debate. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our third motion this evening, and I would invite Councillor Keith Bothell to propose the motion as set out in the agenda.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I refer members to the full text of the motion as set out in the agenda, as I will abbreviate some points. As councillors from all political persuasions, we frequently face a serious dilemma when considering planning applications for new developments because of the inadequacy of the existing sewage infrastructure. In Canterbury District, major problems are the failing sewage systems both in the Stour watershed and in the watershed flowing to the North Kent coast. A solution to this has been adopted by Wealden District Council. This adds conditions to planning approvals that require the developer to A, determine whether the existing sewage infrastructure is adequate to cope with the new development, B, if it is not adequate, to design works that improve the sewage treatment system before any work starts on site, and C, implement these works prior to first occupation. Applied in Canterbury, the condition would ensure that the council complies with its duty under the NPPF to prevent pollution. It does not introduce any new policies or challenge any existing policies. It would only enable this council to adhere to existing policies and NPPF guidelines more effectively. The condition squarely addresses the specific recent challenge from the leader of the council accompanying the new amendment to the draft local plan, which reads, finally, in the light of recent problems around the supply of water and the long-standing issue of dealing with wastewater, we are also seeking views on how to tackle this while building the homes people desperately need. We need to find effective ways to hold the feet of the water companies to the fire and force them to lift their game, said Councillor Alan Baldock. At Wealden District Council, this condition has been validated by a KC and was also tested at appeal this year in January. Wealden Cabinet members and officers have also kindly offered their assistance to this council, and details of the condition were shared with all councillors and senior council officers in an email on the 6th of October, so that an informed and constructive debate might be held today. We are proposing the following motion based on the proven Wealden condition. Firstly, this council acknowledges the acute public concern regarding the inadequate wastewater treatment and the negative impact of sewage pollution on local communities. Secondly, this council acknowledges that additional house building will increase the strain on local water infrastructure and wastewater treatment capacity. Thirdly, this council will continue to exert pressure on water companies, water regulators and all other relevant agencies to help address these concerns. Fourthly, this council will also seek actions and potential solutions that it can implement to help tackle the problem. And finally, with this in mind, this council urges the Cabinet to commission an urgent report into the viability of implementing the so-called Wealden planning condition as a tool for tackling the problem of sewage pollution in this district.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bothwell. Can I invite Councillor Peter Old to second the motion and let us know if you'd like to speak now or at the end of the debate?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to second this motion, but having learned from my previous experience earlier this evening, I think I'll defer to speaking at the end of the debate. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll now like to invite the council to debate this matter. Can I invite Councillor Baldock to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just sort of to open the debate and just to comment a few times from the council's point of view on this. I thank Councillor Bothwell and Councillor Old for their motion. And you're right that our residents genuinely concerned about how our water companies deal with wastewater now and how they would deal with even more houses as they're built. So are we. The release of sewage into the sea around our beautiful coast is not acceptable. Never has been, never will be. And there is always a desire for infrastructure to be put in place before houses are built. That's our desire as well, as a council. This is an issue that has been grappling with for some time locally, and our government has made significant changes in legislation progressing through Parliament already. With an administration that has come with innovative answers to ensure the desperate need for nutrient neutrality to be sorted at Stobmarsh, we come up with solutions. We knew they were needed. We didn't keep pushing it down the road. We're also pushing water companies to upgrade their wastewater treatment plants. On sites of more than 300 homes, we've been requiring developers to build their own, so it's only clean water makes its way into the system. You will, of course, know wastewater infrastructure is an issue we raised in our recent local plan regulation 18. You referred to it yourself. We look forward to the feedback and hope that some of those responses will help us to shape our balanced decision as well. Rest assured, we have knowledgeable and experienced officers who have been dedicating all their endeavour, in many cases, to the issues, and we will continue to do so. I'm grateful for their commitment on this very, very difficult problem. The notice motion asked us to commission officers to bring a report back to Cabinet on the issue, so if this council sees fit to do that, then we're happy to get that sorted as well, and we'll see how the vote goes. It is, however, important to note just a few things, that the Wealden condition, as set out in this motion as being the solution, was imposed on a single planning application and will not be automatically applied to every subsequent application, as it is the implied intention from Councillor Auld and Councillor Bothwell. So we need to understand this. Whether a blanket condition is legally watertight, we believe it is not. If full council really can even instruct a local planning authority, they're two different legal entities, planning and the council, to impose blanket conditions rather than approach each planning application on its own merits. Our understanding is that it cannot, but we're happy to be persuaded by the proposer and seconded if they can tonight. If it were to be included in the draft local plan, whether there is evidence to support that inclusion and whether it would stand up to examination by the planning inspector. Finally, you will not be disappointed if I didn't say this, we need to understand the effect we would have on a 5-year housing land supply and housing delivery target. If infrastructure is not delivered, and the consequential homes are not built, where the planning or where the local plan identifies they should be. We could stay in planning presumption, where the council's been spent too long already, with developers having the automatic right to develop land almost anywhere, so long as it's in accordance with the National Planning Policy Framework, also referred to. And as losing all control of where we would want that, and also all the other infrastructure that goes with that development would be lost as well. So as a council, we look at this in a balanced view, on a balanced opinion for the whole lot. So we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boulder. Can I invite Councillor Jones to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to say from the start, I support this motion. It's a motion regarding obviously the sewage and the dispersal of it, but being able, from a planning point of view, to have a conditions or officers look at or enforce, if they're able to, for developers to come to us and say, look, is this sustainable regarding a development going forward? It would be absolutely useful to do that. Developments are not just sustainable for one thing, you know, like transport, for example. If we can't get rid of the sewage properly, or we can't even have a regular water supply coming onto a large site, they all count as sustainability items. But to actually have those as part of what we do on a normal day-to-day basis, which this motion and using the Wealden model strikes me as a really, really great idea, being able to look at a solution when there's a problem, rather than granting an application and then all of a sudden you know that it's not, the model downstream is just going to overwhelm it. We have, there's a legal requirement from the Water Authority to provide a connection for sewerage irrespective of what's going to come down that tube, so to speak. So to get in front of that and make condition and make it that we're all talking on the same page. Nobody wants that to happen. This isn't to block development. This is to say, right, okay, if we're going to have all this development, we need to have everything in place and make sure it all works. And sustainability sewage has to be sustainable, just like fresh water. It's basics. And we all know that something is going to overwhelm the sea and flood because of this big development. Surely we need to do something to actually, not to stop it, but to make sure that we can manage it properly in a proper controlled way. And that's why I think the motion is excellent. And if we're able to support it as a council, would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Councillor Edwards?
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just a second. Sorry, I just need to raise a fundamental problem with bullet point 5, which is implementing the so-called Wealdon planning condition. It's already been mentioned by Councillor Baldock that the executive and the planning authority are not the same things, so the council can't instruct the planning committee to impose a blanket condition. It doesn't stop any councillor raising a substantial condition on any application where they have concerns. And that would always be possible, and it would always be possible on an application at the stage when it comes to planning committee. However, to impose a blanket condition either via cabinet or via the local plan would, I believe, I understand, be illegal. And so we appear to be not understanding part of the legal process if we go ahead with putting this bullet point in here. The rest of it, I do completely understand the sentiments, don't get me wrong, completely understand. We've all been there a lot in planning. And I do think that we need to think about what we do. And so the idea of coming back with a report is good, but I would suggest that we have to take out bullet point 5 about implementing the Wealdon condition for those reasons. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Naomi Smith.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've just circulated an amendment to this motion because having listened, to what Alan has said and also what Pat has said, there is a problem. There's difference between the local planning authority and the full council and the council, and by putting in this amendment, because currently this is all going through as a bill, and Amendment 197, which has actually just been dropped before, literally between me writing this amendment, it's been dropped because there's been an agreement made or something, because the bill's moving forward, and this happens. This is the way this is the way Parliament happens, basically. But that we still ask that this council further instructs the leader of the council to write to Steve Reid, Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, asking him to accept the essence of what's in Amendment 197 to the Water and Infrastructure Bill. This amendment ends the automatic right of water companies to connect to the file drainage system and ensures developers must prove to independent sustainable drainage advisory boards and that they have a plan for wastewater drainage. So I'm proposing this motion and I've got a seconder.
You're proposing the amendment, right?
Yes, sorry,
Yeah.
an amendment
Yeah.
to the motion.
Yes,
Sorry,
to
I'm
the
trying to
motion.
get it right. Yeah.
And who's proposed? Who's
Seconded.
seconding it?
That would be me, Lord
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you.
Sorry, will you accept the amendment? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Bothwell, are you willing
Yes,
to accept this?
we will accept that amendment.
Okay. And Councillor Old, are you accepting that as well? The amendments? Yeah, okay. All right, accepted it. Great.
Part of the substantive.
All right, okay. So because this has been accepted, we don't need to vote on it.
So the whole the amendment is now part of the substantive.
So the amendment is now part of the substantive motion. Is that correct? Yeah. Thank you. So I'll invite Councillor Stockley to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As the leader's probably aware, or will be aware, we're currently employing a King's Counsel to look into various planning matters. Would it be worth talking to that person with regard to this to see if there is a legal leg to stand on? Because speaking from someone who is on planning, this is extremely frustrating. You know, while I understand the need for housing, we don't really want to flood the country with sewage either, do we? So, you know, it is getting to the stage where we have to look very closely. After talking to a member of the company dealing with our sewage, he did say at one point that we are asking the wrong question. The question isn't, can they deal with the sewage? It's, can they deal with the combined sewage and rainwater? So if we start asking the right questions, we might get the answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stockley. Councillor Dan Smith.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Just to note, Councillor Edwards referred to point 5, which I think was, it's not about implementing it, it's about the report into the viability of implementing the so-called Wildern Planning Commission, planning condition as a tool. And as a tool, I would think it is actually an extremely useful thing to have. This is, as Councillor Baldock referred to, an area of law which is very, very new. And we do have one case on it. It's likely that there will be more, and the more councils that follow suit and do something similar, the more cases there are likely to be. And that is within the realms of case law to expand or develop that, and the realm of statute to deal with that, and the government obviously will handle that when the time comes. There are issues with this. Also, I mean, as Councillor Stockley said, when you're on planning, it is deeply frustrating when you get this kind of problem crop up. We've got one case going to the appeal right now, which is how one of the points was it was on this issue, and I wholeheartedly support anything that would give us some grounds of either mitigating costs when it goes there, or of actually winning the case in the first place when almost everybody cross-party wise thinks it's wrong. So I totally and utterly support the idea of expanding our ability to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Can I invite Councillor Sol to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We need a national solution to this, and I very much welcome the amendment to this supporting what's going through Parliament, because I think that, you know, whilst we have a problem here in Canterbury, the whole country has a problem with this, and I think that's I don't know the timing of that bill and when that might actually take effect, but it's certainly something that we would welcome. But this is a complicated issue, and I think we've already seen tonight and heard tonight that there are concerns about it. I've never sat on the planning committee. I'm no planning expert, and I'm not going to attempt to be, but I welcome the fact we're going to have a report on this. And when we get a report, then I can make a decision as to what I feel about this, and I'm not willing to say whether it's a good or a bad thing to have heard that report. So I welcome that coming.
Thank you, Councillor. So can I invite Councillor Chris Cornell to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on a few points. I have no concern with the motion. I think effectively we're right in looking for additional safeguards, but I just wanted to pick up on Dan's point that I think here The wielder condition is a tool. Okay, it's an agreed form of wording which a KC has agreed, which can be applied on a site-by-site specific basis. To be honest, one of us in a planning committee could recommend it tomorrow, right? Because the LPA is basically an independent body. However, I think what we really need to solve this problem is to explain to people on the doorstep that we need a toolbox. We can't just use one tool. That's not effectively right. If we were to just look at solving this problem by putting conditions on planning applications, the big problem we have is that water companies only start working out how to deal with the wastewater once the planning permission's been agreed. They're constantly chasing their tails. You know, the argument that Rob was making, that we're kind of like, that people are on the back foot. To solve this solution, we need a change of national legislation which removes the right of water companies to automatically solve them. So they have to come to the table when they're producing their plans. First step is, how do we deal with that water? How do we do it? And then when we sit around a planning table, when we look at the concept of sustainable and substantive harm, we have the information to be able to make that decision. Not what we have at the moment, which is basically what a developer says is going to happen, and then what a water company is going to run around to try to fix. Because this sewage infrastructure is complicated. Water companies can't immediately pull the money out of their back pocket to build these things. They rely on 5-year payment cycles. And so I think we need to be honest with people that the wielder conditions are one tool. Hopefully, when we start looking at the results we've come back from the consultation and the Reg 18, we can come up with a series of tools which really give us a way of dealing with this problem robustly. So I really appreciate the fact that we've added an additional fact which will seek some national legislation, as well as I hope that we can look at best practice in multiple different authorities, as well as obviously what's happening in Wealdon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cornell. Can I invite Councillor Ricketts to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Sowell said almost exactly what I was going to say, so I'll pass on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bland. Councillor Bland.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I've been listening very, very carefully to the debate here, and I am quite concerned. I'm concerned indeed that we seem to be talking about trying to implement a condition on planning committee which simply can't be implemented. I mean, that is daft. I take Councillor Chris Cornell's viewpoint, and I think it's well put. The Wealdon tool, if it's only a tool, is already there. It exists. Our planning committee doesn't need this council to say you can use it in specific circumstances if you wish to. So why do we need to have this motion? We don't really need that motion there. It already exists, and the planning committee can do that if it chooses to do so. What seems clear to me from my understanding of the Wealdon condition is that it applies in certain circumstances. And that is a limitation on the planning committee, whether we say this is a good thing or not. The certain circumstances really apply to the issue about whether the local water authority has said it can't do the infrastructure. Well, in that case, you put in this tool. But if a water authority comes back and says we can do the infrastructure, then the planning committee doesn't have a leg to stand on in terms of refusing the application on that ground. And this motion isn't going to improve that situation. So I wouldn't want residents in Canterbury District to actually think that by passing this today, we've got some tool to stop development in their area by using this tool, because it just wouldn't work. And I'm very unhappy about voting for a motion that seems to suggest that. If, however, I may actually, basically, there's an amendment that I do support, and I may have to abstain, not because I don't support the amendment, because I support that. My own view is the problem we've got is we've got water companies, which is a national issue, and really, we should be spending our time backing campaigns to take the water companies back into public control, That's what we should be campaigning for. And this amendment is a small indication of the road down that, of going down that road, that you actually make, you don't give water companies automatic rights to things. That's entirely true. They've got to prove something first before they can go with it. So I back the amendment, but I'm unhappy about the overall motion because it would give false hope, and we shouldn't be doing that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bland. Councillor Charlotte Cornell.
I echo an awful lot of what Councillor Bland has just said. I think this motion does give unfairly a lot of false hope to the people to whom it has been advertised in advance. The local council cannot tell the local planning authority what to do. They are separate legal entities. And whilst I appreciate this is only commissioning a report into the viability of implementing the condition, the report might be very short, as in it's unviable for the council to tell the local planning authority what to do. And of course, the local planning authority can put the Wealden condition on any planning application tomorrow. That's up to them. I mean, if an application is coming to planning, raise the Wealden condition, do it. What isn't fair is to send leaflets to residents, sorry, it's a bit dog-eared, that says, we're urging to urge them to support a motion to adopt the Wealden condition. The council can't do that. That's not legal. And so I do have huge problems with bullet point 5, because I don't think committing ourselves to something which is outside the scope of law is a responsible thing to do. I'm devastated by the sewage problem in the town in which I live, in the area, in the district in which I live. I absolutely echo, in points 1 to 4, absolutely echo every sentiment there. But the Wealden condition is one tool. It's one tool in a box. I'd be delighted to see it used by the local planning authority. Please, someone on planning, where there's a troublesome application comes and it could make a massive difference to the sewage being pumped into the sea, raise it. I'm not on the planning committee. I can't. You can. Do it. But as it stands, I don't particularly like the motion in its current iteration because I don't like things that fall outside the scope of law. And I might be being a pedant there, but that's where I am.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more speakers on this matter? Councillor Heaver.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll be voting in support of this. I'll be voting in support of this because it's probably the most acute issue for residents in the ward I serve. They talk to me about it almost every day. Just as a reminder, because we've talked a lot about legal protocols and toolboxes and national legislation and seeing reports and lots of other very valid reasons why we should really not actually embrace this with some enthusiasm, do what residents would like us to do. On the 22nd of October, 8 days ago, I think it was 22 hours and 25 minutes of untreated sewage pouring out of Swellcliffe number 1, one outfall in Swellcliffe, into an oyster fishery next to a blue flag beach. And there were 7, they're called spills, but this, as you know, they can last for many, many hours. And shouldn't really need to have to repeat the point, but it seems I do. It's destroying not just our environment and threatening not just our public health, it's damaging the economy of our coastal towns, and it's causing reputational damage. It's a crisis, and we spoke a little bit earlier this evening when we were talking about wider issues like refugees and the rise of the far right and the threats to the consensus in this chamber between people that believe in liberal democracy and decency. And somebody said, it might have been Councillor Dawkins, that actually these feelings, this hatred, is bred when people become disaffected and disenchanted and frustrated and feel they aren't being heard. This is an issue where people don't think they're being heard and don't think urgent action is being taken because they know, because they live here, that sewage is pouring into the sea. There's a lot more house building coming down the road, as the leader quite rightly reminded us at the start of this debate, and that climate change is making things more and more acute and difficult to handle. It is just one tool in a toolbox, but we don't have any tools in our toolbox, so what's wrong with this one? It's proven, it's not legally scary, it's working in other councils. Sorry, somebody got a problem with what I'm saying? I'm just... so I would urge this this council to back it and support it. I mean, I think it should be implemented immediately. I think it's a no-brainer. It's a toolbox a tool you can put in the toolbox immediately. It could be used on planning committee, but it never has been. So that's a rhetorical question. Why not? So yeah, it's not new. There's nothing to be scared of. There's nothing to push back on. Please, will you support the motion?
Thank you, Councillor Eva. Can I invite Councillor Castle and then Councillor Brady and Councillor
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to make councillors aware, I have the oversight for planning KPIs, but Councillor Edwards eloquently pointed out it is a separate legal process planning. She's the chair of planning, and she runs that eloquently. I think there's a couple of things just to correct in the room, and I thought this wasn't going to have so much debate. Fundamentally, the toolbox already exists, conditions, and it's been eloquently put. But let's just get to the nuts and bolts. This is about poo. The Wealden condition was very simply they stored the poo on site during heavy rainfall conditions. Now, I live in a rural ward, and there's a very complex case that's going through at the moment. And surprisingly, it did get rejected. I won't deny. I sat and tried to fault it as a ward councillor. But fundamentally, the legal framework that is there says they have to connect the water system and then solve the problem later. They come back with reserve matters. And so the difficulty is there is some confusion and grey area here about what we can and can't do as a planning authority. And Pat eloquently put that, and I think it's very important. And I'm being quite candid. I'll have a chat with Simon Thomas and with Pat after, I think, tonight, because I think councillors maybe training on this matter needs to be reviewed. And that's my personal opinion, because there's a misunderstanding. And I'm not an expert on it. And obviously some councillors who haven't sat on planning at all, no. And I think that's definitely come across in the debate tonight, and it's gone very off-piece, national policy. Fundamentally, you know, we'd want to solve the water problem. I live in a rural ward, and unfortunately it isn't just the coast that has a poo issue. We have it in the Little Stour. Poo ends up in there. Unfortunately, it is a problem that we're not going to solve in this chamber by committing to something that we have no control over legally, and the Chair of Planning eloquently put it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Castle. Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So I'm slightly confused. I'm hearing that there are legal implications that stop us from being able to implement this on a blanket requirement that is the Commission will look into. And as Councillor Cornell mentioned, voting for something that this council cannot do legally makes me slightly uncomfortable. So I just want to know if we can have legal advice, whether that's right or wrong. Because if we're able to agree something, vote for something, but then that means that we're going against our legal boundaries, then that makes me... So you didn't like anybody chuntering when you were talking, so if I may politely carry on. So I'm just asking officers, and this is quite okay, I mean, you're laughing at me, but I'm just asking officers if they can give some advice on how we are allowed to vote on this. If we vote on something that we're not legally allowed to do, then that makes me incredibly uncomfortable. So thank you.
Can I invite Peter Davies to speak, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The reason the motion can be debated is because essentially it's asking for a report on the Wealden condition. The Wealden condition, as has been discussed, has got different interpretations in the room, and that's why it's important probably for officers to work through and give a full report back to Cabinet on what the Wealden condition is and isn't, and how that can or cannot be used in the way that people are interpreting it in the room. So it's completely viable for it to be debated as what's set out. Whether that's what was intended is a different matter, and you've discussed that in the room. So as it's set out in the motion, there's nothing in there to stop it being debated, and if it's passed, then we officers can help provide a report to help better set out exactly what the Wealden condition is and how it could or couldn't be used in the future.
Thank you very much. Could I invite Councillor Hazelton to speak, please?
Sorry. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord Mayor. So I appreciate the clarification that this is just about commissioning a report, but I'm still really uncomfortable about voting for something that's got that fifth bullet point in it. As others have said, the sentiment, absolutely, the issue is massive, but I think I'm in the position where I will abstain from voting, and I would hope that no political parties would seek to make promises to their residents on the back of this without when what I'm hearing is that voting on it would be ultra vires.
Thank you very much. Councillor Forrester?
Thank you, but Councillor Castle and Pip covered all my points. And I just wanted to address Councillor Heaver and say I was raising my hand to respond to your comments. I wasn't chuntering away while you were speaking earlier. Thank you.
Councillor Mackenzie?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So, as a councillor for a rural ward that the River Stour runs through, of course I'm in favour of tackling sewage pollution. I'm sure we all are. However, as has been pointed out by several councillors, it would be illegal to go with point 5. And sorry. So, like, we can't instruct the planning authority to do anything. That's been pointed out. So why don't we just amend the motion to take out that point? Like, wouldn't that be the most simple way of doing this? And then the rest of the motion remains. I would formally propose that.
So, bullet point 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at the moment reads, with this in mind, this council urges the Cabinet to commission an urgent report into the viability of implementing the so-called Wealden planning condition as a tool for tackling the problem of sewage pollution in this district. So it's urging Cabinet to commission a report that would look at the implications.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. Point of order. A amendment was proposed and seconded by Councillor Nolan.
Bear with us, everyone.
Can we have a 5-minute break, please, while we sort this out? Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie, could you clarify your position on the amendments, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Having spoken with colleagues in that interim period, I have decided to retract the amendment so that Councillor Mel Dawkins can propose something different. Thank you.
Can you go ahead, Councillor Dawkins?
Yeah, I do, and I just want to make sure that everybody here knows. I'll get to the point in a minute, but yeah, that we all want the same thing. I don't think there's anyone in this room that doesn't agree with this motion. That we want to see significant change in the way that development and infrastructure is for our wastewater and for sewage, and we don't want any more pollution on our sea, and that's why we're here. We're listening to our residents, and we want to do something about it. So we all know the what, the why, the where, and the want, but the how, that's the hard bit to tackle, and that's what we have to deal with. And so just on this motion, I suggest that we keep it as it is, but we add to point 5, if I can see this, we add and other strategy options as tools for tackling the problem of sewage pollution in this district. So we keep that one, Wealdon 1. So yeah, so I'll read it out. With this in mind, sorry, put my glasses in. This council urges the Cabinet to commission an urgent report into the viability of implementing the so-called Wealdon Planning condition and other strategy options as tools for tackling the problem of sewage pollution in the district. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I have a seconder.
Are you talking about more than one tool?
Well, we've just established tonight that the Wealdon imposing the Wealdon condition on the planning and the local planning authority isn't possible because you can't do that. So we're willing to take that back and make a report on it, but the report's just going to come back and say, no, you can't do that. But if you add this to this motion to say we're going to look into other strategies as well or other options, then we can come back with a bigger report which is going to have lots of alternatives and lots of tools for that toolbox. So it opens the door to possibilities. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you very much.
Widens the door.
Councillor Keith Bothwell, what's your
Do you want to
position?
think about it?
Do you accept this?
I mean, how you put that into the...
Yes, we're happy to accept that amendment.
Okay, that's fine. And Councillor Old.
I'm happy to accept that amendment as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll invite Councillor Carnac to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm all right now.
Can we have a recorded vote, Andrea? No. I do apologise.
Because no one else to speak.
Okay, if there's no one else to speak, I will invite Councillor Old to speak. Councillor Old, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I feel as though I've been caught in the crossfire between two political parties here. And I think it's been a very poor, misinformed, ill-judged debate. I just wish people would have read the motion. As was clarified by the Joint Chief Executive, the motion asks that commission an urgent report. All these objections about a blanket application and that being unlawful, we've never talked about this being a blanket application. We've talked about this being, we understand fully about fettered discretion. We understand fully the need for the planning committee to be able to make up its own judgment. And it's quite right that I'm sure in due course, the legal officer will remind us of our responsibilities in that regard. But here we are just seeking an urgent report. So an urgent report can provide some of the answers, can talk to us about the usefulness of this, how it can be applied on a case-by-case basis, which is the only thing that we've been interested in doing. And of course, the conditions must meet the SIC tests set out in the National Planning Policy Framework. They must be necessary, relevant, enforceable, and so on. And they must be considered on a case-by-case basis. So the motion before us tonight simply urges that we commission a report into the viability of implementing these Wealden conditions. It's worked in other districts. Why won't it work here? Is it just politics getting in the way of what's best for our residents? And I say, let's vote for this condition because it's of proven benefit to residents, and residents have spoken very clearly in the 4,000 comments they've given to the local plan, to the 2,000 comments they've given on the more focused consultation. I was going to say almost all, but I think it's every comment has commented on the infrastructure problem. Here's a solution. Councillor Baldock talked about his desire for a solution. Here's a solution for you right now. Let's vote on this, let's commission this report, and let's get on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Andrea, can we take a... Okay. Can I invite Councillor Buthor to summarise, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Firstly, I should say that I'm extremely disappointed with the behaviour of fellow councillors in this meeting. It's been a farce, I think. It seems to have been engineered and organised in advance, and I think it's extremely strange. Making political points when it's quite straightforward that the people of this district are desperate to find solutions to the sewage problems that we have. People can't swim in the seas because of the sewage. The wildlife in Stodmarsh is threatened because of the sewage. And you're playing political games with this. It is quite extraordinary, I think. I fully support what Peter Old said, and I would urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go for a voice now? Thank you very much.
And that's carried unanimously, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Right. Item 10. I'd like to request that councillors note the changes to memberships of committees and subcommittees as listed on page 15 of the agenda. Please note that the change to overview committee will come into effect on the 7th of November following the next meeting. Could I ask the group leaders if there are any other changes to committee memberships they would like to notify us this evening? Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. To note then that Harry Mackenzie will be our councillor on JTB and Simon Worley will be the substitute councillor for JTB as of the next meeting. We have the Cabinet Advisory Committee on Housing, and the Labour members on that committee will be Pip Hazelton, Beth Forrester and Harry Mackenzie. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Carnac.
Lord Mayor, on the Cabinet Housing Advisory Committee, I will be the member and Councillor Dan Watkins will be the sub. Thank you.
Councillor Sol.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On the Cabinet Advisory Committee on Housing, Steph Dupe will be our member on that, and James Flanagan will be.
As of now.
Will be the substitute. That told you.
Thank you. We'll move. Councillor Turnbull.
Yes, on the Cabinet Advisory Committee for Housing, I will be the nominated member for that, and I'll nominate Councillor Bothwell as sub, please.
Thank you. We'll move to item 11. Would councillors please note the changes to the non-voting parish representatives appointed to the Standards Committee as set out in the agenda? Thank you. Item 12, I'd like to invite the leader to propose and the deputy leader to second the approval of the minutes of the full council meeting on the 24th of July 2025.
I submit for receipt and adoption the minutes of the council meeting on the 24th of July 2025.
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Can we go vote on Councillor Carnac? Okay. Thank you.
Getting excited.
I'm gonna...
And that's carried unanimously.
Thank you. Councillors are invited to note the update on page 9 of the agenda in response to the motion to full council on the 24th of July 2025 concerning South East Waters. Would any councillor like to comment on that? Councillor Smith?
Right. Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I want to thank all the councillors that came to the public meeting and Rachel, who couldn't because she was very poorly. This report back actually doesn't cover everything. There are some really positives that came out of the meeting, and I'm still waiting to hear on the compensation for the 127 residents who live on, not on holiday parks, but live on park homes, who were really, affected for 6 days. But also, we really need to look at how South East Water becoming a statutory consultee through our planning. And hopefully this will get through on the local plan, because certainly I know councillors Heaver and Turnbull and Prentice and Forrester who were there, they were very woolly on whether they could supply water for the future. And this needs drilling down, and we need to be able to get them to say that they can provide water, because everything we got from them as well, there isn't very, not until we get a reservoir, which is 2035. So we do need to drill down on that. And we also, I know that there has been stuff going on with protocols and comms about how we deal with, that, but we also do need to really look again at where they put their bottle stations, and councillors need to know what these plans are, so we can say, that's a really good idea, or that's really not the place to do it. So if we can get that link up as well, thank you.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to item 14. The Joint Chief Executive would like to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The minutes will be dealt with. In turn, the Lord Mayor will invite the relevant chair to propose the receipt and adoption of the minutes and then ask for a seconder for the proposal. Councillors are permitted to debate the minutes if they wish, but they cannot be amended. The only possible action, if there is disagreement on the accuracy of the minutes, is for them to be sent back to the relevant committee. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Could I invite the chair of the Audit Committee and someone to second?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting dated 2nd of July 2025. Do I have a seconder, please?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
And then I was absent for the other one, so
I shall propose that we accept the minutes for the Audit Committee of Wednesday, the 1st of October 2025, as chair for that meeting. And do we have a seconder for that too?
You have a seconder.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we generous this? Thank you very much. Can I invite the chair for the Cabinet Committee, Councillor Baldock, to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I submit for receipt and adoption the minutes of the Cabinet on the 8th of September and the 6th of October 2025.
Seconded. Lord Mayor.
Thank you. General assent. Can I invite the chair of the Licensing Subcommittee, Councillor Bland?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption the minutes of the Licensing Subcommittee meeting on Wednesday, the 23rd of July 2025, Wednesday, the 27th of August 2025, and Wednesday, the 1st of October 2025. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. General assent. Could I invite the chair of the Overview Committee, Councillor Prentice, to propose?
Trust me, it's me. I move for receipt and adoption the minutes of the Overview Committee held on Thursday, the 11th of September 2025, pages 70 to 73. Do I see a seconder, please?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. General assent. Could I invite the chair of the Planning Committee, Councillor Edwards, to propose?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption the minutes of the planning committees on 8th of July, 22nd of July, 19th of August, 16th of September 2025, pages 74 to 92 of the agenda. And do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. General assent. Thank you. Could I invite the chair of Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Carnac, to propose?
I submit for receipt and adoption the minutes of the Scrutiny Committee on Wednesday, 25th of June, pages 93 to 96, and Wednesday, 3rd of September 2025, pages 97 to 101. And do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. General assent. Thank you very much. Item 15 on the agenda. There are no urgent decisions to bring before the meeting, and there are no urgent business. So thank you all for coming. This meeting is now closed.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to Councillor Dan Watkins.